Your Denver Broncos just get a double dose of good news at NFL training camp. One of our star players absolutely dodged a major disaster when it comes to injury, and although the Broncos have signed several dudes to take his place, we still hear great news from Sean Payton on that front. And the second piece of news that we get is just we have a couple of rookies who most folks hadn't actually expected a ton out of this season who are absolutely popping off. We have a wild speculation about a trade rumor involving a wide receiver, and we also got to break down the great news that Omarion Hampton, the highly sought after pick for the Los Angeles Chargers, does not look to be that good from last night's preseason game. That and way more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben. Helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, if you would smash that like and subscribe button. So the first big piece of news here is that everyone has been holding their collective breath when it comes to Dre Greenlaw, and there seems to be like a subset on Twitter who kind of want Sean Payton to be wrong when he is like optimistic about the injury concerns about one of his star players. And it is now turning out to be the case that Dre Greenlaw is in fact going to be back. He even could be a full participant next week when it comes to the joint practice with the San Francisco 49ers. And I think this is just fantastic that you saw him not wearing a shell today, but several different video clips surfaced of him moving, and it looked like he was totally fine. Sean Payton took to the stage after and said, "I was confident yesterday before any of the results came back. Now all of our guys have ran the MRIs, and I'm actually even more confident than I was this time yesterday. We'll be smart about him going forward. Maybe he'll participate in the practice with the 49ers and sit out the preseason game, or vice versa." So either way, I think that is just absolutely fantastic news that Sean Payton is not concerned about him. There are now two inside linebackers that the Broncos have signed in his stead. We'll get to those towards the end of this video. Other injury news that we got today was Q Robinson, who a lot of us are picking to be an absolute sleeper in the draft. Remember, this was Nick Saban's favorite player when he coached special teams there, or when he played special teams with the University of Alabama. Team captain, just a high character guy. He was in a brace today, and it turns out to be a bone bruise, and that Sean Payton does not expect him to miss major time. Again, that is an edge piece and a depth piece that I think we are in fantastic shape. Remember, this time last year, we went in having Baron Browning there, and we ended up like trading him to the Arizona Cardinals, getting a draft pick and not even needing him, still setting the record last year with sacks. And so if he comes in and does anything to this team, knowing that Jonah Ellis is the youngest player in NFL history to sack up 5 sacks in his rookie year, knowing that DeAndre Tillman is going to be more comfortable his first offseason with the Denver Broncos, like our edge room is absolutely fantastic, so I'm not worried. Then we're starting to get to the good, fun fireworks type news. And the first piece here is I think we all saw this tweet from Zach Stevens, and I saw a ton of people on the Hill illegally filming this actual play, and everyone is losing their mind. And that is that Pat Bryant beat Pat Surtain in a third down play to get a first down. And that is just wild. We know Sean Payton said he reminds him of Michael Thomas, and that seemed like an absolutely bold claim to make. And Sean Payton is starting to, use his own supply, or he's getting way too high on this team, or thinking he's capable of far too much. But to hear that, yes, it was on just one play, but man, Pat Surtain, we saw all of the wide receivers at Chad Ochocinco's camp talking about how it's impossible to beat Pat Surtain and strategizing like, oh, if you do this, it'll work. And Quentin Sutton's there at that camp just laughing at them. So to have a rookie come in and beat him, to have Bo Nix connect with him, that's absolutely phenomenal news. And then we're starting to see that Troy Franklin is indeed stacking days on days on days, and that is a great thing for Bo Nix moving into year 2. If he can connect with his Oregon running mate, this would be a wild thing for our offense. Our offense would be as scary as our defense if some of these players start to be the player that Sean Payton thought they could be.
The only thing more complicated than a Sean Payton offense is trying to read and understand the ingredient list on your typical protein powder. When you read the bag, it is just words you've never heard of, and it's not the kind of stuff you should be putting in your body. And that's why I am so excited today to announce the sponsor for this video. We're talking about Transparent Labs, the whey protein. And I know what you're saying, Ben, you played the trumpet in college, not middle linebacker, but I actually take my health and fitness extremely seriously. Over a decade ago, I lost 100 pounds. I've been able to keep it up through diet and exercise, and one of the huge things that has helped my success on my weight loss journey is just getting enough protein every day. But most of the protein powders out there are full of a ton of additives and a ton of ingredients you can't even pronounce. Transparent Labs makes this whey protein, which tastes absolutely amazing. Each and every scoop, you're talking 28 grams of grass-fed protein, and it's also an isolate, so it doesn't mess up my stomach stomach because it's easier to digest. So they do have a starter offer going on right now where you get a pack to try all of their different flavors. Also get a shaker bottle so they know you're serious in the gym, and obviously the protein. You can get 10% off by scanning the QR in this video, but you are not going to regret checking out Transparent Labs.
The downside of camp, but I also think it's an upside depending on how you tend to look at it, is that Bo Nix had his first interceptions of all of training camp. I feel like all I see of Dallas Cowboys camp, Chicago Bears camp, Jets camp is all of the picks. Like we know Aaron Rodgers' first throw in the Pittsburgh Steelers training camp was an interception, one he was trying to intend for George Pickens. And we are now saying the Bo Nix has thrown his first and his second interception of camp, and we are like 2 weeks into this. Like I feel like I'm finally getting the training camp groove of like, oh, Sean Payton's taken to the podium. I got to watch this press conference. And the fact that it's taken Bo Nix this long to throw an interception, I think is phenomenal. So the first one that he threw seemed to have been maybe the play of all of camp so far. Sean Payton talked about it at the podium afterwards and said that it was a RPO. He diagnosed it and said it was the exact same play that Russell Wilson threw an interception on against the Houston Texans 2 seasons ago. So everyone gives Sean McVay all that credit because he has encyclopedic memory of his every single play, and there've been all these tweets and TikToks going out where Sean McVay can remember the exact play call that happened time and time again. Sean Payton is exactly like that too. He knew that on this RPO, it was the same thing that Russell Wilson also threw an interception on. How many folks can remember encyclopedically back to 2 seasons ago? That's the type of commitment to detail Sean Payton has. So anyways, this was a play that Sean Payton thought Talanoa Huffanga had absolutely no business picking off, and he picked it off, and it would have been a pick six. So to me, it's like, I think this is good news that it took Bo so long to throw an interception, and even better news that Talanoa Huffanga, you guys, is going to be an absolute problem. And having him and Dre Greenlaw on the inside of that offense, of that defense, is going to force offenses to basically only throw to the flat or try to pick on one of our outside cornerbacks. And good luck with that. Like, this is going to be the best defense in football. Talanoa Huffanga showing it. And Sean Payton specifically said Bo Nix had like a 9-yard cushion, and Talanoa Huffanga rose out of nowhere and picked that off. So that's phenomenal. And then the next time he threw an interception, it ended up being trying to pick on Patrick Surtain when he was guarding Cortland Sutton. And like a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL figured out last year, you do not pick on Pat Surtain. And so Pat Surtain made him pay. But I think this is great. Bo Nix throwing picks, that's totally fine. This took him a long time. One of the other criticisms I'd heard of Bo Nix was that he was maybe throwing too easy of passes, and that training camp was the time he should try to be intercepted, which didn't make a ton of sense to me. And Sean Payton was specifically asked about that today in training camp. And he responded, you know what? I don't think Bo Nix needs to be like working on the edges of his game, and I don't want him throwing interceptions even in training camp. Obviously, that's like an obvious point he probably didn't need to say, but definitely claps back to the haters who say Bo Nix is captain check down and only throws it short and throws safe plays all the time. Well, he's not throwing safe plays. He's actually testing the defense, and he did it twice today and got picked off. We know defenses have the advantage early on in training camp, especially because it's a lot less complex than what Bo Nix is trying to do. Now, the other thing that absolutely stood out to me today was just the aura of Sean Payton and the fact that he spoke for over 30 minutes to the media today contractually, like the way the NFL contracts that out. He only has to give him about 15 minutes, and he went on and on and on, and he went into just like microscopic detail on a couple of individual projects that just show you Sean Payton is so into the details that it reminds me of hearing Steve Jobs talk about the intricacies of how he designed the iPhone or something like that. He is that absolute genius type who knows like every single thing. We've heard the stories time and time again about how he mandated the size of the towel, the terrible towel that teams waved before games. Sean Payton is nitty gritty in the details, and that is why over the long run, having that minute focus on details is just going to bode extremely well for us. So he went into this massive speech about the minute details that went into our new training facility. He knows all of the construction plans for our new training facility better than any other head coach in football. Like if you ask Dan Campbell about, hey, talk to us about like that I-beam, like Sean Payton knew minute by minute. He knew construction workers' names. Like he is so involved in the weeds yet has the ability to build capacity and scale up his staff to execute his vision. And so one of my huge takeaways is just like, if you have a guy who is that into the details on your football team and leading your football team, the only result is going to be championships. We heard him go into a crazy amount of detail when it came to how he handles analytics. And we know there's entire teams who have people up in the booth running math and playing Minecraft or something like that. And Sean Payton said, like, he believes in analytics, but he believes in analytics when it comes to player evaluation, when it comes to talent evaluation, and not necessarily do I go for it on fourth down or do I go for the 2-point conversion here. And I love that use of analytics. Trust one of the best coaches in football's instincts when it comes to play calling. Right? Do you go for it on fourth or do you go for a 2-point conversion? Let's trust a guy who's won a Super Bowl with one of the biggest jokes of a franchise in NFL history. But let him use the analytics to go out and find a Bo Nix. And he went into some of the analytical pieces of why he found Bo Nix and drafted him, because he's like, man, 1 in every 89 plays that this dude did in college was a negative play. And he's like, throw the analytics on the board, you're going to have a hard time finding a person in second place on that. So I really like that answer. And I love the attention to detail that Sean Payton has. And then just seeing that level of detail carries on to his work on the football field. That I've watched enough Hard Knocks in my life to see that coaches typically get in that crouch position with their hand on their knees and blow a whistle. And you might have a Pete Carroll who's rah guy, but Sean Payton is a teacher of men, and that is going to bode extremely well. And so you have multiple reporters putting out videos of Sean Payton in players' ear, and not just like you know shooting the breeze or anything like that, but telling them like, hey, here's how I want you to do this release, or here's how I want you to fake this to the outside and go up the field. And so Sean Payton's level of detail that we see from our uniforms to painting the opponent's logo on our 50-yard line when we're playing a away game to being on the field here and teaching players how he wants it to go is going to just be an extremely huge addition for this team. And it's going to pay dividends for the next decade having him here as a Broncos coach. The other piece of good news that we get today is we know that the Chargers were definitely counting on Najee Harris being their number one running back going into training camp. He still has yet to take a snap because of a fireworks incident. There's even rumors inside of Chargers camp that he might not ever play a snap for the Chargers, and they're trying to make him accountable for the fireworks incident so they don't even have to pay him. And so then they're relying on the second best running back in the draft, and I put that in quotes. And we saw him last night in the preseason. And this is against 0 Detroit Lions starting defense. And we also know the Detroit Lions defense was very porous towards the end of the year because of injury. And so you are going up against the backups here in the Hall of Fame game last night. And I loved seeing this play where he thought what he could do in college, like he could get to the edge and be fine. Right. That here it looks like he has the edge right here that like I would have done it and tried it. And you just see even a pretty bad backup offense or defensive front in the Detroit Lions did not let him get the edge. And I just think this is going to be what he's going to see time and time again. Harbaugh was not totally confident even in Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton, and that's why he kept the tender on top of our J.K. Dobbins that he did, because I think J.K. Dobbins was plan number 3, and I guarantee you, had Harbaugh known about the fireworks incident that was going to happen with Najee Harris, they never would have let J.K. Dobbins out of the building, but they did let him out of the building, and he's now a leader for your Denver Broncos, and that is a phenomenal thing. And then we're also hearing a ton of Twitter rumors mostly that we are seeing that the Washington Commanders situation with Terry McLaurin is not going well. He has now formally requested a trade. I think this is great news for the Broncos because it just shows how well they have handled it, that they have 4 players going into training camp in the exact same situation, and none of them are putting the organization on blast. None of them are requesting trades. That you got Benito, Zach Allen, John Franklin Meyer, who's vocal on Twitter, but he's not asking for a trade, and Courtland Sutton all showing faith in this team and not asking for a trade. And so then you have a lot of folks on Broncos Twitter, especially saying, hey, if we got Scary Terry this year, we'd automatically be a Super Bowl contender. But after what I'm hearing about how Pat Bryant and how I'm hearing about how Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims are coming on in camp, I'm feeling very good about this roster. Hope the Broncos don't make a move. But let me know if you have a different thought. Very excited for next week, taking my wife and my son to Broncos training camp. Football is almost here, guys. We got so much to believe in.